to 1949, and when she was about 8 years old, she witnessed a priest throw a live baby into a furnace that heated the school. Now, we've covered the evil behind the Vatican. You can go to my website and see the testimony of Sister Charlotte, who was a cloistered nun, who talks about the same evil that went on behind those walls. And we also have had on documenting the genocide of the natives in Canada. And this story, I'm going to play it. It's 1 minute and 12 seconds. And one of the things Frank talks about is this evil that people just don't think exists. They look at a priest and they say, oh, he can't be that bad. They look at one of our politicians, oh, they couldn't do that to us. Well, listen, and I'm going to play this. It may be crude because I have to take off my headset and I don't have a good system here, but I think you'll be able to hear it. This is Irene Fable.
People and how communities are starting the process of being on.
I'm in Fable. I'm 75. I went to residential school in Muskogee in 1941 to 1949, and I had a very, very rough life. I was mistreated in every way. As a young girl, she was 7 years old. She was pregnant, and what they did, she had her baby. They took the baby, wrapped it up in a nice pink outfit, took it downstairs. I was in the kitchen with the nun for cooking supper. They took the baby into the...
Nick, are you there?
What you call that, where they make a fire and all that?
Yes, I'm here.
Furnace room.
I'm not on it.
That baby in there.
All right, I think that
Yeah, you have a caller?
we're having trouble.
Go ahead and call.
Okay, I don't know if we heard. Frank, were you able to hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I did hear that, and it saddens me that people who have really no agenda to push are regarded as honest and true. So many come forward, and yet the damning evidence they provide gets washed away through history.
Yeah, and this is something that's going on today. We're witnessing a woman saying that the genocide of her people included the throwing of babies into a furnace by a Catholic priest. Now, how can anyone deny that there's this evil in the church exists in the Vatican? And you have, and let me give you a little bit of an introduction, because you have tried to study this for a number of years, and I say the author, my guest, Franco Collins, is the author of the Almanac of Evil, who has explored the deep historic origins of evil, particularly how this origin reflects in the Vatican, and more particularly, and we're going to talk about this today, the recent discoveries of Frank regarding the Polish death camps, which were arranged in the shape of an immense pentagrams that, when the sides are extended, ley lines, they pass through most interesting locations such as Rome, and O'Collins thinks this is not a coincidence. At the center of the pentagram is a pentagon. Polish camps in the town of Powell, that was an ancient temple of Cybele exists there. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is built on top of intact the same ancient tomb of Cybele, and Rome is also the center of Baalism, disguised as Christianity, attributed, and Frank talks about this. He says this is a long-standing battle of good and evil, and not only in this world, but the next. They collect souls. And Frank, you have researched this subject, and it is amazing to me how many people still cannot grasp that these people just don't think the way we do, correct?
Well, they don't. They don't think. To be fair, to live life, it's perfectly rational to think about your family, your job, your career, and really not bother yourself with this kind of thing. But these people who gravitate towards the church and become involved and become obsessive by the history, they think in terms of not just years but decades and centuries. But if I could just answer one thing that you raised, and I think the most difficult reason why, and I believe this is the reason why. The reason why people still don't believe that the Vatican is the epicenter of evil on this is the lack of clear published motive. In other words, I don't think people are irrational. They just say, well, look, if you can't give me the motive behind this, then I'm going to have trouble believing what you say. And I think that's going to be, hopefully today we can talk about some of the proof and how it relates to the motive, because I think that's the missing piece.
Good point. Yeah, let's do that. Go ahead.
Well, look, the missing motive is most relevant for people is there's been so much destruction by the church. If we just focus on something that I think any listener and any person that a listener will talk to, most people would agree that World War II and the Nazi concentration camps is one of the most evil acts of history. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if we could take that as being true, let's look at one of the great anomalies of the Nazi concentration camps of World War II, which is no one can accuse the Germans of being illogical. And the Germans in World War II, as the Brits were with their bridges, looked at the logistics that they required and basically built to form design. The only exception for this was 5 extraordinarily evil camps. It turns out, I believe, that these 5 camps were one, certainly without a doubt, Auschwitz. No one would dispute that that was one of the worst. But these 5 camps, unlike any others, were placed in such positions that the Nazis went out of their way in terms of expense and logistics to create basically 5 camps that don't resemble any of the others. When you place these, and anyone listening could do this by going to Google and just having a look at themselves, when you place these, you end up with a precise 300-mile wide pentagram. And the camps are, just so people know, the first one at the top is Treblinka. Treblinka is just next to Ostrov in Poland. If you go from Treblinka and you head down to just to the left of a town called Lviv, is where Janowska camp, I believe, was set up. Now, if you then go to your left and head just past Krakow, then you have Auschwitz. And then if you go directly up, you have the camp Lodz, L-O-D-Z, which incidentally was a camp that was totally destroyed by the Allies after World War II. And this camp was supposed to be the only camp that was dedicated to the death of children. And then finally, if you go directly right, just past across the border of Poland and Ukraine, you end up with the camp Sobibor. And there are your 5 camps that form a perfect pentagram. Now, if you look at this, and we've got these articles online, if you look at this, it's pretty hard to miss that it's the shape of a pentagram. And I know people say, well, pentagrams are, you can do 1,000 pentagrams. But this pentagram is unique in that it represents the Mendez type of pentagram, or the goat's head type of pentagram. And more importantly, right at the center of this pentagram is a temple to KILDE, or Baal, that is known. And people say, what's Cybele and who cares? Well, in Europe in World War II, there are actually only 4 functioning temples to KILDE. Another name for Baal. Baal Moloch, the god you sacrifice people to fire. There's only 4 temples. And by the way, Baal Moloch in history is the only main god of sacrificing by fire. So for thousands of years it's Baal Moloch. And the Bible even references this, the sacrificing of children. There are 4 temples. One was Puławy, the second was Warsaw, the third was Tivoli outside of Rome, and the main centre, the centre that's been most important for 2,000 years, is right underneath the Vatican. In fact, Vatican Hill was the most important temple to Baal 200 years before Christ walked the earth. Now, if I just stop there, what do you think? I mean, does that make sense to start with?
Yeah, now we have on my website,